you deliberately try and create this sort of screaming reaction?
No, we just, arrive at the theater and they're always there waiting.
Ringo Starr, the Beatles' legendary drummer and one of the last living icons of the greatest band in history, is making headlines once again. But this time, the news isn't about a new album or tour. Something unexpected has happened, leaving fans around the world in shock. Whether it's a long-held secret finally coming to light, a major health scare, or a revelation that could change how we see the Beatles forever, one thing is certain: this is big. Is Ringo hiding something that no one saw coming? Join us as we uncover more.
And whenever we're doing a show, the police always come and say, "Don't look out the window, because you excite them."
The mystery. For decades, Ringo was seen as the backbone of the Beatles, providing the steady, unshakable rhythm behind some of the most iconic songs in music history. His distinct drumming style, simple yet effective, gave the band a unique sound that set them apart from their contemporaries. Yet, despite his fame and success, Ringo always seemed to be the quietest of the Fab Four, often overlooked in favor of the more flamboyant personalities of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison. However, he has been making headlines again, but not for the reasons you'd expect. Fans around the world are buzzing with speculation, and theories are running wild. What happened to the man who helped shape rock and roll history? The truth might shock you. New rumors have emerged, suggesting that there's more to Ringo's story than the public ever knew. Some claim he's hiding a deep secret from his time with the Beatles. Others believe he's been quietly battling personal struggles away from the spotlight. And then, there are those who think he's been sending cryptic messages through his rare public appearances. So what's really going on with Ringo Starr? In September 2024, Ringo Starr, at the age of 84, faced health challenges that led to the cancellation of the remaining dates of his U.S. tour. After performing 10 shows since the tour's commencement on September 7th, he fell ill, prompting medical advice to rest. Consequently, concerts in Philadelphia and New York City were canceled. A statement from his team conveyed that Ringo had come down with a cold, and after consulting a doctor, he was advised to cancel these 2 remaining shows and get rest. Demonstrating resilience and a passion for music, Ringo Starr announced his first studio album in 6 years, titled Look Up, set for release on January 10, 2025. This album marks his return to country music after over 5 decades, featuring 11 original tracks. Collaborations include notable artists such as Billy Strings, Molly Tuttle, Alison Krauss, and Lucius. The lead single, Time on My Hands, released on October 18, 2024, showcases Starr's reflective songwriting and enduring musicality. In support of his new album, Ringo Starr had scheduled performances at Nashville's Ryman Auditorium on January 14th and 15th, 2025. Additionally, he plans a summer tour in June 2025 with his all-star band, featuring esteemed musicians like Steve Lukather, Toto, Colin Hay, Men at Work, and others. A highlight includes a performance at New York's Radio City Music Hall on June 13th. Tickets for these events are available, with prices starting from $46. The Beatles' story is set to be retold through a series of biopics directed by Sir Sam Mendes, each focusing on a different band member. Rumors suggest a predominantly Irish cast, with Paul Mescal portraying Paul McCartney and Barry Keoghan as Ringo Starr. While official confirmations are pending, these casting choices have generated significant buzz among fans and critics alike. The upcoming biopics are poised to introduce the Beatles' legacy to a new generation, potentially reshaping public perception and appreciation of their contributions to music history. These developments underscore Ringo Starr's unwavering dedication to his craft and his ability to adapt and evolve as an artist. His health scare served as a poignant reminder of his humanity, yet his swift return with a new album and tour highlights his resilience. But to understand the mystery surrounding Ringo today, we have to go back to where it all began. His early life, his rise to fame, and the struggles he faced even at the height of Beatlemania. Keep watching. You don't want to miss this. His early life and legacy. Ringo Starr's journey to becoming one of the most famous drummers in history wasn't a smooth ride. Unlike his Beatles bandmates, he didn't grow up mastering instruments in music academies or being showered with praise for his early musical talents. His path was riddled with struggles, near rejections, and a moment that almost cost him his spot in the greatest band of all time. Born Richard Starkey on July 7, 1940, in Liverpool, England, Ringo grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods of the city. His early years were plagued by severe illness. At just 6 years old, he suffered from peritonitis, a life-threatening inflammation of the abdomen that left him in a coma for days. He spent an entire year in the hospital recovering. It gets worse. His troubles didn't end there. At 13, he contracted tuberculosis, forcing him into another 2-year hospital stay. It was during this time that he was introduced to percussion as part of his therapy. Nurses gave him a makeshift drum to help with his hand coordination and unknowingly set him on the path to stardom. When he finally returned to normal life, Ringo was far behind his peers in school. His academic performance was poor, and he struggled to find a clear direction in life. He dropped out at 15, worked odd jobs, and immersed himself in Liverpool's growing music scene. Ringo joined a local skiffle band, the Eddie Clayton Skiffle Group, where he developed a reputation as a solid drummer. As skiffle faded in popularity and rock and roll took over, he transitioned to a professional band, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes. This group was one of the most sought-after bands in Liverpool, even securing regular gigs in Hamburg, Germany, the same place the Beatles were developing their sound. It was in Hamburg that Ringo first met John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison. At the time, he was just another friendly drummer hanging around the Beatles, occasionally filling in for their then-drummer, Pete Best, when needed. By 1962, the Beatles were on the brink of stardom. They had secured a record deal with EMI, but producer George Martin wasn't happy with Pete Best's drumming. While Best had been with the band since their early days, his skills weren't up to professional recording standards. The solution? Replace him. The decision wasn't easy. Pete Best had a loyal fan base, and his departure caused outrage among some Beatles followers. But Ringo, who had already proven himself as a talented and reliable drummer, was the perfect fit. On August 16, 1962, the Beatles' manager Brian Epstein fired Pete Best. Ringo officially joined the band the next day. However, it wasn't an instant welcome party for him. Fans of Pete Best weren't happy. When the Beatles performed their first few gigs with Ringo, the crowd chanted, "Pete forever, Ringo never." It took time, but eventually Ringo won them over. Many underestimate Ringo's influence on the Beatles, assuming he was just a passive member who rode on the talent of Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison. But his drumming style was crucial to the band's unique sound. Ringo wasn't flashy, but he was consistent, steady, and innovative. His left-handed playing on a right-handed drum kit gave his beats an unconventional feel, creating rhythms that were unpredictable, yet perfect for the Beatles' evolving sound. Songs like Come Together, Ticket to Ride, and A Day in the Life showcase Ringo's unique ability to complement the band's melodies rather than overshadow them. Even Paul McCartney admitted in later interviews that Ringo's drumming was indispensable to the Beatles' success. His groove and timing provided the foundation for some of the greatest songs in history. While Lennon and McCartney dominated the songwriting, and Harrison brought an increasingly strong presence to the band's musical direction, Ringo was the glue that held them together. Unlike the other members, who frequently clashed over creative control and personal differences, Ringo was the most easygoing. He never sought to dominate discussions or push for more songwriting credits. Instead, he provided balance, often acting as a mediator during tense moments. However, even Ringo had his breaking point. In 1968, during the turbulent White Album recording sessions, tensions among the Beatles were at an all-time high. The band members were constantly arguing, and Ringo felt increasingly unappreciated. Feeling like an outsider, he walked out of the studio and quit the band. Shocked, the remaining Beatles realized they had taken him for granted. They personally reached out, and to show their appreciation, they decorated his drum kit with flowers upon his return. This moment highlighted just how much Ringo meant to the band, not just as a drummer, but as a core emotional pillar. And as we'll see next, even after the Beatles split, Ringo's story was far from over. Stay tuned for an even bigger revelation. Ringo before versus Ringo today. His shocking new revelation. The Beatles officially disbanded in April 1970, but tensions had been brewing for years. Creative differences, business disputes, and personal conflicts had made it impossible for the band to continue. John Lennon was eager to explore his artistic freedom with Yoko Ono. Paul McCartney was frustrated with the band's management. George Harrison felt overshadowed. And Ringo, caught in the middle, was struggling to find his place. Although he wasn't as involved in the bitter feuds as the others, Ringo felt the weight of the split just as much. He had always been the stabilizing force in the band, the easygoing member who could bring humor and levity to any situation. But now, he was lost. In later interviews, Ringo once admitted that it felt like a divorce. One day, they were the Beatles, and then suddenly, they weren't. He didn't know what to do with himself. The once-beloved drummer found himself isolated. He had spent nearly a decade as part of the biggest band in the world, and now, that identity was gone. In the immediate aftermath of the breakup, Ringo seriously considered walking away from music altogether. He no longer had the band that had defined his career, and he wasn't sure he had what it took to succeed as a solo artist. The pressures of being a Beatle had been overwhelming at times, but at least he had his bandmates to share the burden. Now he was on his own. During this period, Ringo withdrew from the public eye, unsure of his next steps. It wasn't just his career that was in turmoil. His personal life was beginning to spiral as well. By the mid-1970s, Ringo was struggling with alcoholism, a battle that would last for nearly 2 decades. At first, it seemed harmless, just part of the rock and roll lifestyle. But as time went on, the drinking became more than just a way to unwind. It was an escape from the loneliness, the pressure, and the lingering pain of losing the Beatles. Ringo's personal life also suffered. His marriage to Maureen Cox, his first wife, and the mother of his 3 children crumbled under the weight of his drinking and infidelity. They divorced in 1975, leaving Ringo feeling even more adrift. During the late 70s and early 80s, his addiction worsened. He became known for his erratic behavior, showing up drunk at public events and struggling to maintain relationships. Friends and fellow musicians were concerned, but Ringo, like many addicts, didn't think he had a problem. The turning point came in 1988 when Ringo and his second wife, Barbara Bach, checked into rehab together. It was a difficult journey, but for the first time in years, Ringo was committed to getting clean. He realized that if he didn't change, he wouldn't survive. After completing treatment, Ringo focused on rebuilding his life and career. He began working with fellow musicians, forming the All-Star Band in 1989, a rotating supergroup featuring some of the biggest names in rock. The band became a success, allowing Ringo to reconnect with his love for performing without the overwhelming pressures of the Beatles. Through music, he found a way back to himself. Sobriety gave him clarity, and for the first time in years, he felt at peace. But just when fans thought they knew everything about Ringo Starr's journey, a shocking new revelation would change everything. For years, Ringo Starr has been known as the Beatle, who keeps things lighthearted, the one who avoids controversy and prefers to focus on the music. But in a recent interview, he revealed something that left fans stunned. Keep watching to find out. During a sit-down conversation with a British media outlet, Ringo dropped a bombshell. There was a long-held secret about the Beatles that he had never spoken about publicly. The world braced itself as Ringo finally opened up about something that had been buried for decades. While Ringo didn't reveal every detail, what he did say was enough to send shockwaves through the music industry. He spoke about hidden tensions in the band, about private conversations that had never been made public, and about moments that could have changed Beatles' history forever. The most surprising part? He suggested that the Beatles' breakup might not have been inevitable. Ringo admitted that there were things they could have done differently. He added that looking back, he believed they all wished they had handled certain situations with more care. Maybe things didn't have to end the way they did. This revelation sent fans into a frenzy. Could the Beatles have stayed together? Was their breakup a mistake? And if so, who was most responsible for it? But the biggest reaction came from Paul McCartney. Sit back, you don't want to miss it. Paul McCartney, the only other surviving Beatle, was reportedly taken aback by Ringo's statement. Sources close to him say he had no idea Ringo planned to make such a revelation. However, in a follow-up interview, Paul responded with grace. Paul said that Ringo had his own perspective, and he respected that. He added that the Beatles were a complicated thing, and they all remembered it differently. But he'll always love those guys like brothers. Despite Paul's diplomatic response, the tension was undeniable. Ringo exposed a painful truth that some preferred to keep buried. In recent years, Ringo has maintained an active lifestyle, continuing to tour and perform with his all-star band. However, he shocked fans when he abruptly canceled several tour dates due to a mysterious illness. Speculation ran wild. Was it something serious? Was he hiding a major health scare? Though his representatives initially downplayed the issue, reports later confirmed that he had contracted COVID-19. While he recovered, the sudden cancellations left many wondering if there was more to the story. Now 85, Ringo Starr continues to captivate audiences with his enduring talent and commitment to music. Despite recent health concerns, his forthcoming projects and performances reaffirm his status as a cherished icon in the music industry. Could there be any more secrets hidden in the Beatles' history? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, click on the next video on your screen. You'll love it.